lines again. Gail, welcome to Take a Stand.
Thank you. You've addressed the two extremes of unfunded mandates and earmarks, but how do we go about in getting back in North Carolina the dollar benefit in proportion to what the federal government takes from our citizens in taxes? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Gail. And I believe we're starting off now I've lost track. Who wants to take it first? I lost track of where we were after the last 2 hours.
Gail, you ask a very important question, and the answer is quite simply you don't. Because when the money goes to Washington, part of it disappears, never to be seen again. It stays in Washington. It pays some bureaucrats in a cubicle in the basement of a building. So you're always going to lose. It's like playing the slots in Vegas. You're always going to lose in the long run because your dollar benefits don't come back. Now, is it the business of representatives to see that North Carolina doesn't get cheated? Yes. But is it the business of us to play a maximum losing game? I think not.
All right, Spence?
Yeah, I agree with John. It's not going to come back into proportion at all. It's going to come back according to the capability of the representative to bring some of it back by working with colleagues in the Congress through the congressional leadership as a part of a team where the congressman is doing a service for the leadership and the leadership is doing a service for the congressman. And I think that process needs to be reinforced and reinvigorated. And if it is a process that includes focusing first on the people of Western North Carolina, it'll work, and you will see resources coming into this region in large numbers.
Carl?
I disagree strongly with my colleagues. I will not participate in earmarks. Again, if you want somebody to do that, you need to vote for one of the other candidates. I think if you play in that system, it's quite evident across the country, here locally, anywhere you want to look. If you play in that system, you get corrupted by it. I am much more interested in fighting to keep our money at home and changing that corrupt system where these robber barons in Congress steal from us, skim it, and then give a little bit back.
All right, and our last call of the afternoon is going to go to John. Welcome to Take a Stand.
It's Ron.
Ron, sorry about that. Welcome to Take a Stand.
Hey, Matt, appreciate your time. Appreciate all the good work you do. I'd like to know what these gentlemen can do when they get in Congress to help the contaminated site at the CTS plant get cleaned up and help the environment and help the people out there.
All right, thanks, Ron. And Spence, you want to take that one first?
Well, I think the Congress has a responsibility to ensure that contamination that was created by business operations is cleaned up in the interest of the health of the people. And I think they do that through the Superfund and the cleanup of sites like that. And I think that kind of program needs to continue. And I think it's been effective in doing that.
Carl?
What you do, you should do well. That's not the model for Congress. They like to do a lot of things poorly and get involved in things they, I believe, shouldn't get involved in. If you make a law, you should enforce it. If you make a rule, you should enforce it before you start making new rules that you can't enforce. Accountability is lost in the American equation today at all levels. I think it's a terrible mistake. CTS plan is a problem. We need to address it.
All right, John?
Ron, the Superfund program, which was passed, I think, almost 20 years ago by Congress, was supposed to deal with these contaminated sites where, say, the industry is shut down, but you still have the contamination. But has it been spent its money on digging up contaminated earth and turning these sites into usable sites for housing or whatever it may be? No. Most of its money has been spent on lawyers. And that is absolutely insane. And the same is true in medical care. If you squeeze the lawyers out of the process, you wind up with more money to do the purpose and less money being thrown down a rat hole. I don't believe in buying BMWs for lawyers as a proper welfare program. And that's what the Superfund has been doing.
All right, and my final question here before we go to the closing statements after this next break is to just ask one question of each of you, a little bit of fun here at the end, taking comments that have been made by other political folks in Western North Carolina about each of you and giving you a chance to respond. John, the first question I have for you is, are you a long-time Washington lawyer?
I lived and worked in Washington for 10 years, but guess who I worked for? I worked for the National Taxpayers Union. I worked for the Citizens Against Government Waste, for the Citizens for a Sound Economy, and for the National Tax Limitation Committee. And those are not insiders. Those are all outsiders who are trying to beat Congress into shape. So was I in Washington? Yes. Was I an insider? Absolutely not.
All right, and Spence, this was actually a response to a release you had put out calling Heath Schuler a wolf in sheep's clothing. The question in a response statement, I would have to ask you, are you a war hawk in sheep's clothing?
Not at all. I believe that the war, any war, is a terrible thing, and no one should have to go to war. And the fact that we do is always, in my mind anyway, the recourse of last resort. And if we have to go to war, it generally means that the politicians haven't done their job, and I intend to go to Congress to be a part of the crowd that knows how to get foreign policy to work on our behalf and to support national objectives without going to war.
All right, and Carl, are you an arrogant asterisk?
Okay, an overconfident farm animal, I think is what somebody called me. I think there's a difference in backbone and a courage button and arrogance. There are times I wish I was arrogant. I would enjoy having more confidence in some of the things that I undertake. That said, I am terribly arrogant about fighting wrongs. I will not look away from the wrong thing, and I'll get in there and give it everything I can, and people want to call it arrogant, so be it.
All right, we'll be back with the final segment of this hour of Take a Stand and closing comments from each of the candidates here on Take a Stand on 570 WWNC and AM 1400 The Peak.